Hello, and welcome to the video that I was supposed to record and film 3 months ago. 4? I'm not, something like that. I drew this, I believe, in September, but I delayed in recording the audio because that's a whole different set of skills. I don't draw so that I have to speak out loud, okay? So, but here I am. This is a speed paint of one of my comic pages that I'm working on for a new original graphic novel, just so you can sort of see the whole process. Admittedly, this is a little bit, the process of finding the style for this story is still a little bit experimental, as far as, because on Webtoon it's vertical scrolling, and so with this is adapting back to the page format. So it's a difference in how I want, what order I want to take things. And, just just the best way to sort that out. But for the most part, I just wanted to get this up here so you could see what I've been up to a little bit. And then also, when I originally drew this, I asked on Instagram if you guys had any questions for me about just like my art process in general, and a lot of you gave me some very lovely questions, so I will be answering those, but I will be answering them after a word from this video's sponsor. Once again, thank you to vograce for being the reason this video exists. Cut to ad break, Miranda. vograce.com is the one-stop shop for any artist, business, or personal project. Vograce has amazing high-quality products that I have been using for years for my own merch. From keychains to standees to notebooks to body pillows, they can make just about anything that you have in mind and can also help with the photography and the packaging. Another great thing about them is that if you want to try something, you don't have to buy hundreds all at once. All of their products have an extremely low minimum order requirement, and they also have adorable sample boxes. They're currently doing a Chinese New Year discount sale, but they have incredible discounts all year round, many of them getting well over 50% off, depending on how much you buy. Check out my link below to see all that they have to offer, and if you do order something from them, feel free to tell them that I sent you. Once again, thank you again so much, vograce, for all of your help and amazing customer service. And I hope all of you have as much fun working with them as I do. Before we get into the questions, I suppose I should explain a little bit about what the story is that I'm drawing. This is for a horror graphic novel concept called Welcome Home, Lydia Grey. And it is about a girl named Lydia Grey who returns home to, as you can imagine, to a small town, a small made-up town, I should say, in Montana that she ran away from when she was about 16, 17. Basically because, what's a way that I could say this that YouTube will be okay with it? She has to return home because her father unalived her stepmother and then unalived himself. I don't know if it's too early for me to use the actual words, but anyway, so she has to go to the big creepy mansion that that she used to live in with them, and basically deal with the whole estate. And it ends up that the house is haunted. That's what the horror aspect is. But so it's about her dealing with her past and basically the ghosts, and healing a relationship with her former best friend, who's the other character you can see in here, named Kay. And she's drinking. I feel like, so this is a bit of a tangent, but it's relevant to what I'm drawing, is I feel as if, I don't know if you can hear my cat jumping around, but with the kind of characters that Lydia is when they're just really guarded and keeps to themselves like a very heavy wall, they tend to either drink a lot of alcohol or a lot of coffee, and I'm not really much into either of those, so I thought it would be kind of funny if she was just like chronically addicted to energy drinks like I was up until just like a couple of weeks ago. I was drinking way too many for way too long. So I designed, the whole can and everything because graphic design is my passion or whatever. And it is dragon fruit blueberry, I believe, because dragon fruit, the green Red Bull is the kind that I would always drink, and then blueberry just because I thought it was just like a cooler looking motif because the blues and greens kind of worked better for the color palette in the story. So that's a little interesting factoid for you. But yeah, on to the questions. I haven't looked at any of these since I got them in September. So the first question is, which U.S. president do you think you could take in a fist fight? And to be completely honest, I think there's very few that I couldn't take. I feel like a majority of them I could fight against pretty easily. I'm 5'10" and also pretty good at throwing my weight around. I think someone like as tall as like Abraham Lincoln, I think I would probably have trouble fighting. But I think if it really came down to it, I think I could manage most of them. Another question, number 2, is what inspired the lore for Treya? Treya is a world that was created. You can see it featured or referenced quite a few times in Muted, but it's actually a world that my wife Chase and I created together. We met when we were in 8th grade, and it basically is just like the world that we built around the OCs that we made together, and it just like expanded and expanded, over the years, as you do when you're, writing stories with someone for that long in such a focused space. We're both hoping to do more stories in that space that's more specifically about Treya sometime in the future, but I have no timeline on that yet, so I will keep you posted. But yeah, so the inspiration is, in short terms, my wife. What brushes do you use? I am one of the few people who still use Photoshop. Most of my brushes are ones that you can find and download. I think they're called Kyle's brushes. Basically, like if you have Photoshop, you're able to download all of these brushes. And so I typically tend to use this. In Photoshop, I have like my faves. It's just like this chisel brush, and then I also have these freckle spot brushes that I downloaded a long time ago that I basically use anytime I need to use dots or brushes. And then some assorted little like watercolory. For the most part, for watercolors, it's actually like a blending effect with like the mixer tool, the wet mixer tool that I like push the color around with. But yeah, basically all the brushes I use are Photoshop brushes and modified through Kyle's brushes. This one I can't read, and I am very sorry, but I do know that it is about Muted, and thank you very much for reading Muted as it is translated in Spanish. I very much appreciate it. This comic, do you have any other comic ideas after Lovebot? Can we hear about them? The answer is yes. This is one of them, the one that I'm drawing right now, and then the other one is another one that I'm creating with Chase that is going to be a sort of futuristic sort of dystopian apocalypse sort of situation, and a sort of more fantastical take on it, I guess, in a way. I want to say fantastical apocalypse, kind of almost in a way like Gurren Lagann is, but I don't know if that's really the best way to describe it. But it's not just like a straight zombie story. It's got like, like monsters and gods and everything. And here's a couple character concepts for a couple of dudes in there, and we're very excited to look into that more once some other stuff in our lives calms down. This question, who is your first fictional crush? That one, well, for context, for how old I am, I'm turning 34 this year, and my first fictional crush was probably, I don't even remember his name anymore, is the one guy from SWAT Cats, or this one guy from the Mighty Ducks cartoon, or Dib. All equally embarrassing answers for different reasons. And then, of course, as I got into anime, I had a very big, Sasuke phase. But the first three were before I was like 12, because 12 is when I moved to Washington away from Montana. So that's how I base that timeline. Any advice for someone who's scared to take the leap on a project? It's one of those things where, like, that's the reason why I put off making this video for so long, right? Is because it's hard to get started, and it is hard to get past that wall, but, the more you do it, the easier it is to get, like, the ball rolling, because you just basically pick up momentum. I really think that the initial start is by far the hardest part. So, just do it or whatever, but, yeah, I think you'll be surprised at, like, once you really, like, commit. Like, just commit. Like, when you start, like, don't try too hard to, like, make it perfect or anything. Just do it to get it done. And, like, and then assess after the fact if you want to change anything. But, like, in the moment, like, if it's just, like, one episode on Webtoon or one chapter of a book or, like, one page of a comic, like, just, like, get it and make it, like, exist. And, like, so that you'll have something tangible to work on and then go from there. How do you get such high quality art in your webtoons? Thank you very much. That's very sweet of you. I think it helps that one of my dogs just woke up. Hi, buddy. I think it helps that when I went to school for animation back in 2011. Hey, buddy. I'm trying to record something. Hey. Can you go lie down again? Please? But, Billy? Hey. Go lie down, man. Yeah. No, it's not time for dinner yet. No, it's not dinner. It's not dinner time. Go lay down. Thank you. I don't remember the answer to this question, but I appreciate that. Oh, I went to school for animation in 2011, and it taught me to draw really fast, and I think just, like, trying to find a good way to just, like, because it doesn't have to be super detailed, it just has to get the point across. Falcor, go lay down. Go lay down. Go on. Yeah, it doesn't have to be, like, super detailed and perfect. It just, like, has to get the point across. And, it's kind of like what I said in the last question. The more, when you pick up momentum, the more you do, the more you're able to do quickly. I feel like I'm not saying that right, but Falkland's really distracting. Hey! Alright. Thank you for the question. Any big goals, aspirations, or future projects outside of the one that you're doing now? I would love... Oh my god. Falkor. One big goal is to get muted printed, but obviously that's something that will come up hopefully sooner rather than later. Another one is, ideally, eventually in the future, it would be great to have some kind of animated series, whether something I've made in the past or of something entirely new. I think that'd be really fun. Yeah. Go right down. Go on. Go. Slowly down. Go. Go. Good. Got it. Sweet. Aside from Lovebot, what other comics, film, or TV or books can you recommend? This is a tough question. I'm going to have to try and remember stuff that I like. I'm going to not say my answers out loud to this question. I'm just going to start putting things up on the screen that I like and that I remember and I recommend you checking out, because I don't have anything off the top of my head right now, but I will, when I'm actually editing the video itself, I will put some examples up. Are the characters from Muted ever going to come back in another story spin-off style? I'm not going to say no to that, but I'm also not going to say yes, because there's no plans currently. But I feel like saying no closes a door like preemptively. It's not like something I have a hard stance on, like, no, I would never do that. It's just a sort of like nothing really comes to mind at the moment, but who knows what the future holds kind of thing, you know? So I would not entirely discount it, but currently there are no specific plans. Another question, do you ever do a spin-off of the series? As I said, currently not any particular plans. If I did, it would probably be of which family is in like a different area, like not of any of the same character, but just like the same sort of principle of, which families and how they sort of handle the powers that they've been given in that dynamic. Yeah. Are you going to make another series? That's the goal. The one I mentioned, the sci-fi dystopia with Chase I mentioned, will hopefully be a webtoon. This one, Lydia Grey, obviously would be a full book. Working with my agent currently to see if anyone would be interested in it. Originally, I had pitched this one to webtoon, a different version of it, and they weren't super interested because at the time it wasn't super well thought out. But I have changed it a lot since then, so maybe I'll run it by them again. I don't know, we'll see. Especially since I've already made so much in the vein of like comic spreads. Like, you're seeing me work on this page, but I've made 10 other pages other than this, so having to reformat them back into vertical scrolling, I think would kind of be lame. But we will see. Never say never. What inspired you to create Silente, or Muted, as it were? There was originally a story that Chase and I were going to work on together, and then as we were sort of like pondering it, I just got like a huge brain blast, basically, and asked if I could like basically run with it, and I ran really hard and very far for 125 episodes and then collapsed. But yeah, so once again, as per usual, Chase is a huge inspiration, and then just, you know, the meat and potatoes inside of it was, you know, just working through a lot of stuff, emotional stuff, like, you know, parental trauma and all of that, and just as a queer person wanting to, like, have a queer story that wasn't specifically centered around, like, that was an element of it, but that wasn't, like, the main focus. It was just, like, sort of elements to go along, basically just, like, the journey of self-discovery. Yeah. Main inspiration that got you into drawing? That is actually a good question. My guess would probably be anime. Is, like, just, like, seeing, I think probably Sailor Moon was one of the first that I saw, and, you know, and there's just, like, so many, you know, styles and stories of anime that at the time, watching mostly American cartoons, I hadn't seen yet, and, like, just seeing those kind of, that energy was entirely different, and just, like, a really cool, like, oh, I want to mimic that, and, like, I want to see, like, if I can draw something like that. I don't, you know, it's kind of hard to quantify because I've been doing it since forever. So, long answer short, anime. So, again, this question was asked back in September before Lobot Season 3 came back. But, Lobot is back, and it is currently in its last season, and it will be ending on episode 150. If you are at all interested in reading it, I would very much appreciate it, and especially consider fast passing, because that does help us out financially and is really cool when you do that. So yeah, so we're on episode 112 just came out, so whatever 150 minus 112 is how many episodes there are left. Oh no, I'm all out of questions. Oh no. Thank you for all of the questions that you guys sent. I think this is the longest voiceover video that I've done so far, and that helped to take up a lot of time. I didn't want to make the speed of what was going on in the video too fast. Please let me know if you think that it is going too fast, and if you would like it for me to just do it more slowly and maybe just, like, a portion of it. I do have a couple other videos on the channel that are, like, speed painting, like, one individual picture that maybe you can get a better idea of how that process works, and I tend to explain it a little bit more in there too. But I kind of just wanted to see if I could get the entire process of the page, aside from the initial sketch, on there. For the most part, yeah, and then, you know, for 2023, sorry, this is another tangent. 2023 was full of a lot of highs and lows, and a lot of the lows me and my family are still coming out of currently, and it has not been the best. But I am inspired and excited for the future, and I'm really, really hoping, you know, to get back into, you know, YouTube how I used to back in 2017, where it was, like, a pretty common thing for me. I don't want to say that it will be, like, as common as it was back then, because, like, back then I had, like, a normal job, and, like, I needed YouTube as, like, an outlet to do creative things, whereas now my job is, like, mostly art, and so it's hard to find time to draw, like, more art that isn't barred behind, like, NDAs. But it's a goal of mine, that, and, you know, I'd like to stream, but it's hard for me to speak. I don't want to say that, like, well, I guess that is the only way to describe it, is I tend to be pretty nonverbal. Like, if no one is around to speak to me, then I tend to, like, just not speak. And so to have to speak unprompted to myself for a really long time is a challenge. I think it's one of those challenges that I kind of want to take on, because it's like, I feel like I can learn from it. I don't know. Maybe even, like, it's one of those, as the question from before, like, how do you get started? It's like, if I do it more, then it should get easier, right? But we will see how that goes. I don't know if you can hear my cat screaming. But if you are at all interested, I assume if you're here at this point, you're already subscribed and already know me. But if for some reason you have no idea who I am and you've gotten this far, then I encourage you to subscribe. Hopefully you had some fun learning this. Please feel free to give any of your thoughts or tips or advice on how to do things, and how to make the whole viewing process more interesting. And yeah, subscribe. Subscribe and check out Muted, which is done and you can read it if you haven't already. Check out Lovebot, which is still going if you haven't read it already. Check out my Patreon, because the more money I have there, the less I have to take on any other projects, any other like commissions or anything, because like Patreon basically covers a majority of my bills. And so when it starts to not pay my bills, then things get difficult, and videos are not at all the priority when things are difficult. Yeah, so consider that, and have a fantastic day.